Hello and welcome back to Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is no one here as Logan is celebrating Thanksgiving and some birthdays, I believe, with family, while I am here ready to talk all about that USA England match that just wrapped up about, 10 minutes ago. If you're listening to this recorded, thanks for listening. If you're joining us live, thanks for joining live here as we're going to talk all about that. I guess first, let me just show on my screen here the current World Cup standings for our group. So our group currently is England in first with 4 points, Iran in second with 3, USA in third with 2, Wales in last with 1 point. That point coming against the draw with the United States of America. So, look, I think we have to talk about the result that happened this morning first, and that was Iran beating Wales 2-0 in stoppage time. That severely changed the outlook of the group. It has effectively eliminated Wales from contention. Wales can still get through. If they beat England, they can still get through. But at this point, it won't affect the United States of America. If the U.S. just win their game, they'll have more points than Wales and England, and they'll go through. But I think it's kind of changed the perspective after we saw England beat this Iran team 6-2. A lot of people were thinking the U.S. should be able to stop them. Then this Iran team just played so well against Wales, and it made us feel worse about the Wales draw. It makes us feel more nervous, I think, for the Iran game on Tuesday. And I cannot wait for that game. At this point, that game was already what more to us than this England game. The England game became more of a, well, if you can get a win, right? Or if you can make some noise, make some noise. But I think I predicted a draw last game, but I think last episode, but I think I said like a 2-2 draw or 1-1. I thought it was going to have some goals. But I think England didn't have in half except for that Rashford shot near the end, if I'm remembering right. And apparently this is also the first scoreless draw that the U.S. has played at a World Cup. That's something that's incredible, that we've never had a scoreless draw before this. And I think it's also the first time we've held a European team goalless at a World Cup. So again, just pretty interesting stats as we kind of settle into what has happened in this game. And I think this is a game that makes you incredibly proud of this team, this young team. And I'd seen a lot of predictions from English fans before the game saying, 3-1 England, 3-0 England, 4-0 England. And for us to be able to hold that down, shut them down, they didn't look particularly good at all for a team that only needed a win to ensure that they're guaranteed to go through with 6 points. Now, they have to leave it to the last game as well, because I guess technically they're not eliminated. Wales is not technically eliminated, and Wales can beat them and have a higher goal differential of them. But from what we've seen of this Wales team, probably not going to happen. So I don't think anybody's really worried about that in England. But I'd seen a lot of hubris before this game, as we usually do, and the USA is still undefeated against England at the World Cup 1915, 2010, and today. So just a meaningless stat that feels good, I think. Makes you feel good about yourselves or the team. But yeah, so this was a fun game. So I spent half of the game at like a restaurant watching it with other US fans, and it was pretty great to just kind of be around that atmosphere of other US fans cheering the team on at the restaurant. And then we switched. I need to get home. It's only a 10-minute drive, so I used halftime to get back home, sit down and be able to focus my energy, not being in public. and being able to kind of live or die by each pass a little bit more at home. So just two unique experiences for me throughout the match. And this was just an incredible game. I think there are some issues that we still have to work out. At first, I thought Pulisic still being on corners was bad. Then he started getting some better passes in, and I was starting to think, all right, now we actually just need somebody up there to like make a move and hit one in. And it seems like it took a while for them to adapt of trying to get Harry Maguire out of the way. He was like constantly being a nemesis in the box, heading stuff away, getting to the ball first on some of these corners. That and the fact that we had like what 7, 8 corners, something like that at one point. I can look up the stats. I guess I don't have that in front of me off the top of my head, but just something that was. It felt like we were more fluid in this game. We had some really good passes, some really good build up. We ended up with 10 shots to England's 8. We had a better XG. We had less passes, less accurate passes. I mean, we committed more fouls, and we had 7 corners to the 3 for England, and the possession ended up 55% for England, 45% for the USA. And just something that was the scary thing was at the end. Harry Kane's header was a little scary there, but other than that, I felt like we did pretty good. And I think where we struggled the most again is something that we've talked about all the way since qualifying, and before that, is scoring goals. Who's going to be the striker? I didn't think Haji Wright gave us much at all this game. And when Sargent came in, I felt like it was a little too late bringing him in that late. He didn't get that many opportunities, and sometimes he was having to go out wide to pick up the ball. So that is one area that I would love to see improved, and I just don't know if we have that player on this team. Somebody that's going to go in there and score goals. So that was something that we were kind of struggling with as expected. I mean, really, it feels like I think I've seen some people be negative about it, but it feels like we could have stole a win here. We felt like the better team for a good chunk of that game. Just especially the second half. This is like the most complete we've seen this team play in quite some time. A lot of the times, this team is good in the first half, terrible in the second, first half, good in the second, and vice versa. We usually flip flop on what half is our strongest half, and I felt like we had a really good half on both halves of this game, which is something that instills me with a lot more confidence going into this Iran game. I think Berhalter may have waited too long for substitutions. Sometimes I think people and coaches kind of get to the point of maybe I don't want to make a change that might negatively impact the momentum we're having right now. But then I also sometimes see that it was getting, by the time we got Aronson, our first sub in, it was the 75th minute. And then we had to make more in like the 82nd minute. And it didn't give enough time for them to really get into the game. Otherwise, the defense shut down England pretty darn well. I thought they played a hell of a game. Tim Ream looked really great. Matt Turner looked really great. I think there is a huge drop-off when Dest left and Shaq Moore came in. I felt like Moore was trying to press a little too much, trying to force some passes. I think Zimmerman tried to force a few passes that end up being intercepted and causing some problems. But Zimmerman also had that huge save on Harry Kane in the first 10 minutes that, that really said, they're just replaying it right now on the TV while I'm recording. But it was a huge save for Zimmerman in those first 9-10 minutes. And then just sometimes the decision-making on the passing was a little rough. But all in all, a much better experience, a much better viewing experience, right? This was more like the first half against Wales than it was the second half against Wales. And that's the biggest part that we were looking for, is more connectivity. I felt like some of the passes were really working better. Some of the wiggling out of bad situations, some of these turns to get out of jams were really good by players like Weston McKennie and all those players that had yellow cards. McKennie, McKennie, Dest, Reem, and I forget who else has one, but they were not subbed in until later. But we had 3 players that had yellow cards that had to be careful, and they were all very careful. They still made the challenges they had to make, but they didn't make any stupid ones. And we escaped and were able to get those players off the field, save them for Iran, and make sure they don't get a yellow card that gets them a suspension. So I felt like that was really good by those players. I felt like the game plan for this was very good. The defense was structured. We all usually kept our shape. We didn't get caught out much. And if they did, players like Tyler Adams going back into that box when Anthony Robinson was caught forward, and Tyler Adams making that slide tackle in his box in the second half was magical. Tyler Adams is, again, one of the best players on this team that I feel like is a little underrated by a lot of people. And I'm hoping with all these eyes on him at the World Cup, he's going to start getting his due a little bit more. I know Leeds fans love Tyler Adams a lot. So what does this do for us going forward? Well, we have Iran on Tuesday, and thank God I took off of work for the second half of the day, so I can actually watch that game because it's going to be a stressful game. And I said, I think going into this tournament, and I may have even said something on when we did the draw, I didn't like the idea of having to go in a must-win against Iran. Iran can get through with just a draw. So Iran's going to probably sit back. I would assume Iran's going to sit back because they can escape with the draw. And then we're going to have the issue of having to score a goal and break that low block. And that is the thing that's been the issue. We have one goal in this World Cup so far, and it was that Timothy Weah goal in the first half against Wales. 3 consecutive halves without a goal, and you're going into a game where you must score at least one and not give up a goal. And more reasonably, you want to score 2, I would think, against Iran. So that's going to be the issue. Who's going to score that goal? What's the squad rotation going to look like for the Iran game? Look, I think the fact that he didn't rotate that much for this game, I don't think we're rotating much for the next game. Weston looked a lot better this game than the first game against Wales. So I'm starting to think that he's getting more into fitness and he'll be good to go. I think Dest was pretty good today. So I'm assuming maybe you see Haji Wright come out and you have Sargent or Jesus Ferreira go in against Iran. Is what I'm thinking. And maybe a Reina start if they think he can go 60, 70 minutes. But Greg doesn't usually rotate that heavily, and we haven't seen that in this World Cup. We had one change going into today's game, and that's kind of where I'm thinking we're leaning for Tuesday. They have Saturday and Sunday, Monday as rest days. I'm sure there'll be some training, but no full games. They'll have 3 days of rest, just like they did after the Wales game. And we'll be going into a super huge game against Iran. The biggest game. This might be the most watched game, I would think, right? And the one that grabs the headlines because it's England, because it's on Black Friday and people are off of work. This might be a game that gets a lot of views and a lot of talk. That Iran game, already before we kicked off this game, is the most important game of the World Cup. And I know people say, if you can't beat them, you don't deserve it. I don't care about deserving in this World Cup. I would have taken the 0-0 draw for Wales and Iran and setting us up for 3 straight draws to get out. Like, I don't care about needing to deserve it. I just want, we only have so many limited World Cups in our life because they're every 4 years. I just want to see this team get through. And now the path is clear. You didn't lose against England. You haven't lost yet. You can conceivably get bounced out without losing a game. But you need to win against Iran. You need to get 3 points to move on. I've seen some people say, well, a draw will get us through. Let's revisit that table. Iran has 3 after beating Wales. The USA has 2. If they each get a point, the USA goes to 3, Iran goes to 4, and Iran's through because England already has 4. Iran would have 4, and if Wales beats England, they would have 4. We would end up bottom in that scenario if Wales wins and Iran wins. So or Iran draw. So you need the 3 points. You need to go out and get it. How are they going to do that? I have no idea. I don't know. Like I said, I don't see much rotation happening in this. I was a little worried that the first sub didn't come in till the 75th minute. Part of me was thinking, we got to save some of these legs. We got to not be gassed going into this Iran game because, if they're gassed, then we're really in some problems there because, we only used 4 subs this game too, right? And they all came late. Maybe more evenly spaced out. And I'm thinking, I don't know how Greg's going to handle these substitutions going into Iran. You would hope by the time you're making a lot of those substitutions, you probably have a 2-0 lead up and you're trying to see it out. You don't want to get to the 75th minute down a goal or 0-0 because that's just going to give Iran so much of their power, right? They can get through on a draw. 75th minute, if you're tied 0-0, they're really going to sit in there and they're probably going to be flinging their bodies at the ball to stop any sort of movement into the box. They're going to be laying out for it because that means so much to Iran to get through from the group. And it's possible for them. So that's something that worries me greatly about this next game, but I'm trying not to focus too much on that. I'm trying to focus on how much fun this game was against England. I wish we had some of those English fans that had came in here before. Would love to get their takes on what they think because I would assume they thought they were going to win. That's kind of the vibe I've got from anybody. I had to comment on YouTube after we posted the last episode saying we were being too arrogant. I'd only predicted a draw. I think Logan predicted a win, but I'd only predicted a draw. So I didn't know how we were being super arrogant about that. And we ended up getting a draw. So it feels good. No doubt, feels good, but ultimately meaningless. All it does is take Wales out of the equation. If you had lost this game, Wales would have needed to beat England and have a greater goal differential to get through over top of the USA. At this point, USA is just winning in, and it's the easiest you can do because you need to win. But we've been in this position before for teams. Mainly, this really reminds me of 2010. Let's rewind to 2010. 2010, we draw with England to start off the World Cup. We draw with Slovenia 2-2. Then we beat Algeria 1-0 in 90-plus minute. That was enough to get us through on 5 points. And I talked about that World Cup last time. We had an episode on Tuesday or Monday. And that's the one that kind of keeps sticking out to me is that game. Because that World Cup, it's very similar. And at that point, I remember going through so many emotions, right? I was at work that day. I was right out of high school. I was working a grocery store job, and I had my BlackBerry. This was before that was like a year after iPhones came out. So not everybody had them. I have an iPhone now, but I had a BlackBerry. And that was my first phone that had internet for me to check scores and everything. And I just remember stocking toilet paper. Those single rolls of toilet paper in the aisle at my grocery store. And I had put my phone on the shelf and would casually just keep refreshing as I'm stocking these as I'm stocking these toilet papers. And as I'm stocking it, I'm like, well, that's it. It's 90 plus minutes right now. I don't think we're going to score. That's it. And then I get the text from my dad who's watching at his hotel room in Las Vegas. And I'm then getting the update on my phone of 1-0 Donovan. I was like, what is going on? And that Algeria game meant so much. And again, it was one of those things where you're like, maybe we shouldn't have left it till the last minute. Maybe we shouldn't have scored in the 90 plus to seal it. We had tons of chances. And you hope it's not going to be that close against Iran. You don't want it to be 90 plus minutes score. I'll take it anyway, whatever gets us through. But at that point, you're like, man, we're really playing with a fine line of what's going to get us through. And I think this team is, obviously this team's way better than the 2010 team on talent. But they're still young. But they played a hell of a game today. And if they go out there today like they go out there and play against Iran the way that they played today, I think we have a really good shot. We just need that finisher up top. I would recommend starting Sargent again over top of Haji Wright. Like I said at the top of the show, I didn't think Haji Wright gave us too much to really work with, which sucks because he's been having a great year in his Turkey at his Turkey club. He's been having a great year, scoring tons of goals in 2022. But for us right now, it's at this point of we need somebody that I think can score more, and I think that'd be Sargent. I wouldn't be shocked if Fiera is the one that starts going into the next game. I just think maybe Greg has that already, sketched out somewhere. I don't know how he makes these decisions or anything. I saw people overreacting to the lineup today because people are trying to project a lineup based off the result from Iran and Wales. And Landon Donovan pointed out, and I think many other players would probably point this out, that the players already know who's going into this game, like who's starting the game, usually by that point, because they have to be told so they can prepare, so they can get ready for it. A lot of coaches don't do like the Klinsmann, which I feel like Klinsmann was known in stories that came out with like Philip Lahm and stuff like that, of like not telling anybody until like a couple hours before the game and putting the lineup up. And he would also, put people in so many ridiculous positions. So I think Greg probably had already had their talks with the players of, hey, you're starting. He didn't have enough time, I don't think, to be like, well, actually, we're going to pivot and change our game plan we've been training for the last 4 days because Iran happened to beat Wales. So that's where I'm kind of leaning on how this is going to shake out for the Iran game. Anything else to really talk about with this match? I mean, England was quiet. Kane was mostly quiet. He had like 2 chances that I can really think of: the save by Zimmerman and the wide header in stoppage time. Maguire played surprisingly well for them. I think he's somebody that really gets up for England compared to the Manchester United. Just let me check some of these stats again and look at some of these. But again, we had more shots, more corners. It really felt dominant at times, just like that first half against Wales. But just the lack of finishing is what is really killing us, I think. And also that free kick at the end. Just put that in the box and see if anybody can get there and head it in. I think that was something that annoyed me the most, is because as soon as it went out for the throw and Reina picks it up, they start blowing the whistle. And you wasted your set piece. Like I said, Pulisic was getting much better at whipping the ball in as the game went on corners. And sometimes we had runners there and sometimes we didn't. And that was a frustrating thing when it came to corners and crossing the ball in. Yeah. Any other players sticking out to me? I mentioned how good Adams was. McKennie was very good. Waya was kind of quiet. He had some good build-ups at times. Ream was I really liked how Ream did. He got to a lot of headers in the box. Clear those out. Pulisic grew into the game. Yeah, I mean, not really much more to say. Like I said before, Shaq Moore is really when I felt like the quality kind of dropped with Shaq Moore, which sucks because I do like Moore a lot, but he gave the ball away, had to make a bad tackle for a free kick. He tried to forcing some of these passes through the same way Zimmerman was. And that was kind of a weakness that we had was sometimes trying to force that ball through. And, getting them onto a counterattack. But we usually close down those counterattacks pretty well. Matt Turner played really well. They have him as man of the match on our FOT mob here. I probably would not disagree. But yeah, USA third place in their group. It's a must win against Iran the next time that we play. Let's see. I know we should have Logan back on Tuesday, which is huge. I can only ramble for so long by myself, I think. But we'll have Logan back for Tuesday, probably a live stream after the Tuesday result, probably closer to like the 6:30 time frame like we did Monday because of work and Logan having work and then having to drive home. I will be off in that afternoon, so I'll watch the game and then I'll get stuff set up for the live stream against for the Iran game. And depending on how that goes, it's going to be a fun affair or it's going to be miserable. We're either going to be calling for people's heads or celebrating and looking ahead to the round of 16, which if we finish second in the table, I believe we face A1, right? And Group A1 right now is Netherlands. But Netherlands and Ecuador are tied with 4 points each. They both have the same amount of goal differential. It's going to come down to the wire there, I think, for if we're going to face Netherlands or Ecuador if we make it through this group. All right, let's kind of look ahead to the rest of the games that are coming up this weekend and the games that have passed. We already mentioned Iran beat Wales with 2 goals in stoppage time. I didn't wake up for the game. I turned it on and saw that Wales was down a man due to Wayne Hennessy's red card, thanks to VAR. And then I'm watching it on my phone. It's like almost 7 a.m. I'm watching on my phone and see the goal go in for Iran. I was rooting for 0-0 score, a scoreless draw for Iran and Wales. So when that went through, I was like, crap. And then when they scored another one, I was like, even more crap. But really, it was the second best that we could hope for, Iran winning. The power is squarely in our hands. So that's as much as you can hope for, really. The other games that have happened since we last spoke. Let's see. We last spoke on Monday, right? So let's see how that went. Okay, so Tuesday we had Saudi Arabia beating Argentina 2-1. That was a big upset. That was pretty huge. And I remember everybody being upset with USA drawing against Saudi Arabia. Good thing we didn't lose to them. Mexico held Poland to a draw. They'd given up a penalty to Lewandowski, and Ochoa saved it. That was a good result for Mexico, even though they probably looked the better team. Denmark and Tunisia played to a 0-0 draw, and then France battered Australia 4-1 after giving up an early goal to Australia. On Wednesday, Morocco and Croatia played to a 0-0 draw. Japan surprised Germany 2-1. 2 late goals for Japan. Spain wrecked our CONCACAF brothers of Costa Rica 7-0. And Belgium beat Canada 1-0. And that was kind of surprising because Canada was playing so well. They were playing really well. And they had the same problem we have. They couldn't score. Thanksgiving, we had Switzerland beat Cameroon 1-0. Uruguay and South Korea played to a 0-0 draw. Portugal and Ghana played to a 3-2 win for Portugal, and Brazil beat Serbia 2-0. And today, like I said, Iran beat Wales 2-0. Senegal beat Qatar 3-1. Excuse me. Netherlands drew with Ecuador 1-1. And England and USA played till a 0-0 draw today. 0-0 draw. So where does that leave the standings for all of the groups? Well, Netherlands and Ecuador are tied for 4. Like I said, Senegal is in 3rd place with 3 points, and Qatar is already eliminated. They're the first team to be eliminated with a -4 goal differential and 0 points. Group B, England sits first with 2 matches played, 4 points. Iran, 2 matches played, 3 points. USA, 2 matches played, 2 points. And Wales in 4th with the 1 point and -2 goal differential. Group C, Saudi Arabia leads Group C 3 points. Poland in 2nd with 1 point. Mexico in 3rd with 1 point. Argentina at bottom with 0 points. Group D, France has 3 points. They sit first. Tunisia and Denmark sit 2nd and 3rd with 1 point each, and Australia 4th with 0 points. Group E, Spain sits top of the group with a 7 goal differential and 3 points. Japan sits 2nd with 3 points. Germany in 3rd with 0. Costa Rica in 4th with 0 points and -7 goal differential. Group F, Belgium leads the group with 3 points. Croatia in 2nd with 1. Morocco in 3rd with 1. Canada in 4th with 0. All of that is still really up for grabs there. Group G, Brazil and Switzerland top the group with 3 points. Cameroon, Serbia in 3rd and 4th with 0 points. And Group H, Portugal lead with 3 points. South Korea and Uruguay with 1 point each. And Ghana in 4th with 0 points. All right. So where does it lead us for going into the weekend? Going into the weekend, we have matches starting tomorrow at 5 a.m. Tunisia versus Australia. Australia would be hoping to get 3 points there to get the ship righted, but Tunisia played really well against Denmark, and they'll be looking for 3 points as well. Poland, Saudi Arabia at 8 a.m. tomorrow. 11 a.m. tomorrow is France and Denmark. And then the biggest game, I think, of the day, especially for CONCACAF here, is Argentina, Mexico tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mexico are probably going to be a little scared of Argentina having to that Argentina probably wants to take the frustration out on somebody after that 2-1 loss to Saudi Arabia with 3 offside goals for Argentina. Argentina's probably looking to batter Mexico. I don't think they will. I think it'll still be a relatively close game. And it's there for the taking for Mexico. If they can get it going, they had a draw. They can get 4 points here, get a win and move to 4 points in the group. Sunday, Japan and Costa Rica at 5 a.m. At 8 a.m. is Belgium, Morocco. Group F, more CONCACAF, Croatia versus Canada. And then Group E at 2 o'clock, Spain, Germany. Good matchup. Monday, Cameroon and Serbia at 5 a.m. South Korea and Ghana at 8 a.m. Brazil, Switzerland at 11. And Portugal, Uruguay at 2 o'clock. And of course, Tuesday, the next time we record, Ecuador, Senegal at 10 o'clock, with Netherlands, Qatar at 10 o'clock. Then at 2 o'clock, Iran and USA, and Wales and England. And again, that's because the results can have different effects. That they play both of those last group stage games at the same time, which is why there's no 5 a.m. game, just 10 and 2, 4 games, 2 at each time slot. Make sure you get the 2 screens ready to go. And like I said, we will have Logan and myself here Tuesday, probably around 6:30, going live to either commend the team for getting to the round of 16 or really reevaluating what the next step is for this USA team. All right, I think that'll about wrap us up. If you have any comments or questions for us going into the next game, you can leave those on the YouTube video. You can email us, stateside-soccershow@gmail.com. Did I say that right? I think so. I think that's the only one that's different. No, it is stateside-show@gmail.com. My bad. Twitter, Stateside Show. Instagram, Stateside Show. Facebook.com/Stateside Show. And that is where you can reach us on all of those socials. Thanks for everyone who came out to watch. And I hope that everyone has a great rest of their holiday 4-day weekend. If you have a 4-day weekend, I do. Enjoy Argentina, Mexico tomorrow. We got Croatia, Canada coming up on Sunday. Some really good matches coming up for the rest of these CONCACAF nations. Costa Rica is kind of already eliminated, unfortunately, with their 7-goal differential. That'll be tough for them to overcome. Thank you all for coming out. We'll be here Tuesday talking Iran, USA. And just enjoy it. Just enjoy that we're back in the World Cup for the first time since 2014. And the next time we play a World Cup group stage after Tuesday, we will be here in the US of A 2026. So let's make it a celebration. Let's go out there and win against Iran, move on to the round of 16, and see how far we can get against those Group A teams. But thanks for watching. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and we'll catch you Tuesday.